Yes. Yes, sir. What is up, everybody? Thursday night. I know a lot of you are looking forward to watching some football, but first, baseball talk with myself and Josh Engleman, because we have a 7-game baseball slate to talk about today. There was a 2-game afternoon slate. It is kind of nice that they didn't spread the games out today. So we got at least one slate with some amount of games on it. I'd prefer this than if we had like a 4 and a 5-game slate, or maybe it'd be like a dumb middle slate where it'd be like, hey, we got a 2-game slate in the afternoon, a 4-game slate night. So we do have a 7-game slate to break down for you guys right now, which we're about to do. So if you can do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Owner's Box, who is the sponsor of our show, as Jordan Klein astutely pointed out before we started here. So always like when you confirm that with me, Jordan. Got baseball to talk about. Josh, what's happening? How did yesterday's slate go?
Well, if I would have played it, it probably would have went really well, considering the Pirates scored like 13 runs and they were my most exposed team. I ultimately did not play last night's slate. I took the night off because I played the early, and I was just like, it'll be nice to not do that for a night. And I opened up my phone and saw that, and I was just like, well, that's probably not ideal. I didn't load up the lineups that I would have had at lock. I didn't want to torture myself like that, but it seemed like it probably would have been a decent thing.
If I was in your position, I 100% would have uploaded my lineups to torture myself. And not only, like, it would have been a thing where it's like, and then I would have ruminated and fixated on it for weeks after that until I had like a good win after that. But hey, that's just me. I'm sure that's not the healthy way to approach it, but that's the way I approach those situations.
So I did that earlier this year, right at the beginning of baseball season. And I realized very quickly, like, I should not do that way, because I realized it was just going to like really annoy me. So I can't load that stuff up anymore, or I'm dead in the water. Like, it's too stressful to know how you would have done. I forget what I would have finished. It's in a DM I have to Eddie, but I want to say that I would have finished like 5th or 6th or something. So it wasn't too bad, but I do remember looking it up at the I think Eddie shipped that day, and if that's the case, I'm gonna see if I can find it quickly.
So did you like message Eddie and be like, "Hey man, you're lucky that I didn't play, or else you wouldn't have won"? Was that like the message more or less?
No, okay. So it was the exact opposite. He congratulated me, and I said thanks, and I was like, I forgot to register for the slate 2 nights ago. Pulled it up, but I guess I just never entered it. I had one lineup, but I never entered the other 149, and I didn't really realize it. I went through all of Live Before Lock, made my stuff, and then figured it out. This was on May 27th. I figured out the next morning that I would have finished 3rd and 5th.
Okay. So tilting, not as bad as if you would have won first, right? That would have been the worst possible scenario.
It was 2 days before I shipped.
Oh my, so this was all part of the heater you went on earlier. Isn't it the dumbest thing ever that DFS works this way? Because there's no correlation between Monday slate to Tuesday slate to Wednesday slate. It sure shit feels like it sometimes, though.
It really does. Like, I had a massive May, and then I had a massive August. But like June and July were like relatively tepid. They were the ones where I would get like a 3rd or a 4th. But May and August, like, I had both the wins and like a short slate win for less than 50. But yeah, that one would have been 3rd and 5th. So probably wouldn't matter all that much now. It would just sort of like annoy me that it was 3rd and 5th. But yeah, that happened like 2 days before I shipped earlier. So then I stopped looking because I don't want to know.
All right. Well, that's a mentally healthy person, not me. I'll torture myself, and then and then we do drugs and stay up all night. Like, there's different ways to handle these situations. That would be.
I'm doing that either way.
Doing it.
Either way, that's happening for me. Win or lose.
Maybe it's because it's this point of the baseball season, because I'm still playing all of the slates. I very rarely stay up until the slate is over anymore. I just check how I do in the morning.
I'm pretty regularly up until midnight at this point, which is
not me.
So the opposite of everything that I have been for so long. I'm really curious what I'm going to do once the NBA season starts. I assume I start going to bed again early because I won't have a choice, but I have enjoyed like being up late and watching all of my stuff.
Yeah, not for me. The way that I've been doing a lot of my lineups is everything's set, everything's good to go. Once the game starts, I'll get into bed and I'll either play, like lately now, because the new Mortal Kombat game came out, I'll play Mortal Kombat. Other than that, like, I'll watch a movie or something on my iPad until I fall asleep. And then in the morning, Eventually, I'll check how my baseball. It won't even necessarily be the first thing I remember to do in the morning. It'll be like I'll enter my lineups, and like if I notice my account balance looks vastly different than it did the night before, I'll be like, "Oh, I must have done well."
That's the second win that I had this year. Was like I opened it up and I was like, "Oh, that's a 50." Those days are fun.
It's a good way to wake up then. Mm-hmm. By the way, was there an issue with my internet? I'm seeing people bring it up in chat. It hasn't seemed. All right. Jordan Klein has confirmed it's his fault. Don't bash me in chat. This is Jordan Klein over here. It's his fault. Not my fault today. It's his fault. Not Eric's fault. I usually blame stuff on Eric today. It is the fault of Jordan Klein. But also, we're only about a month away from the start of basketball season. I'm certainly looking forward to it. It's something we're going to be covering a lot over here, as you guys know. Actually, something Josh and I earlier on a meeting, we were talking about what we want to do for basketball season. So look forward to it, guys. We got a lot of cool tools coming on the site. And for now, we got a lot of cool tools for football season. And the way that you guys can get access to them, the easiest way is you sign up at Owner's Box. There's a link below in the description box. When you guys sign up at Owner's Box, minimum $10 deposit, 1 week totally free of all of our NFL tools. Projections, ownership projections, top stacks tool, boom bust tool, all of that, including the contest generator, our Sims tool, all included for free when you sign up at Owner's Box. So go check that out and sign up using the link that we have below. Let's talk about some baseball now, Josh, where we have, like we mentioned, a 7-game slate tonight. And the pitching options for today, kind of similar to yesterday, we have some good options at the high end. We have the pitchers who are priced over 9K are Kyle Harrison, Tarik Skubal, Max Fried, and Garrett Cole. Of those pitchers, Skubal is expected to be the chalk. He's projected for 46% ownership tonight, Josh Engleman. 46% of the field playing Tarik Skubal. Yeah. For you, does that feel too high, too low, or just right?
Just right. I have 51. I think he's the best combination of price and upside today that you can acquire. Big strikeout stuff in a park against a team that has a bunch of strikeouts, that limits righty power. He's a lefty. He's getting 9 righties. Righties hit him worse than lefties do. Every single bit of this matchup is just screaming you should play Tarik Skubal today.
Yeah, and the other thing too is there's no more issues with any kinds of restrictions with Skubal, which was something that they were really cautious of him for a while for good reason. He was coming off of Tommy John surgery. He's also pitching for the Tigers, who are terrible. So it's like, why are you going to have this guy coming back from Tommy John surgery and just have him throw 100 pitches right out of the gate? But he's looked fantastic. And what really stands out the most to me, and we see this happen sometimes, Josh, his velocity is up, way up from having Tommy John surgery. Sometimes those tendons, they get a little stronger after being operated on. I forget what it is they replaced them with, but they put in something else in the elbow, which oftentimes ends up being stronger than like the human UCL. Tarik Skubal, 95.9 mile per hour average on his fastball. It was 94.2 the last time we saw him healthy. So that's definitely led to better results. And he was a good pitcher before, but he's just gone to another level now. 3.25 ERA, 2.43 expected ERA, 30.7% K rate. He is the biggest no-brainer of a cash game option we have on the entire slate. And even despite his ownership, I think he's a great tournament play.
Couldn't agree more. Speaking about his the elbow injury, what I remember reading, not necessarily for him, but for most guys, it's not that they come back stronger. It's generally a testament of how long they have been compromised. And this is just them getting back to neutral, is the way that I've understood it in the past. Whether or not that's true or not, I mean, they could be giving these dudes like horse tendons or something now, and they're coming back like a cyborg type event. But from what I remember back in the day, when you saw these boosts, they actually chalked it up to the fact that it's usually an indicator of how long someone had been hurt before it just went like kablamo in his elbow. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, neither am I, nor do I play one on TV. And I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night either. But no. I could be, I'm looking this up right now as we're talking, but I thought I remembered that they often replace it with something, not like a horse ligament or anything like that, but something that was a little bit sturdier. They load it with like a rubber band or something for more elasticity. I don't know. Let's see though. So this article that I pulled up right here.
I think there's probably a couple options. Like they could probably take stuff from your leg. You get like the cadaver version of it all. There's no telling.
So I'm reading this story about this one doctor who to test if it actually makes you throw harder. This guy actually just threw a baseball, had his velocity test, and then just voluntarily had his elbow cut open and undergo the surgery, and there was nothing wrong with it, and then go through the rehab to see if he throws harder. So
can you
this
imagine?
This guy's an insane person. I don't care what his research shows.
Like, I get if you're like really into the research and this is like relevant research, but replacing I mean, I guess, from a monetary standpoint, it's relevant research, but this is really not helping out the public if you're like, hey, by the way, you do throw a baseball faster. Like, oh, cool. I'll use that in my day-to-day.
Yeah, it's very selective who it is that you end up helping. It's ultimately going to benefit a total of maybe 15 people in the world per year, if that many. Yeah. So not the most valuable research that I've ever seen. What could be valuable to people who are watching this show, though, Josh, is if they are not paying up for Tarik Skubal, who's your next favorite pay up option? Because from there, we've got Kyle Harrison projected for 1% ownership, Max Fried at 16%, Garrett Cole at 13%. Of those guys, do any of them stand out to you as a contrarian option, or is the answer no?
Assuming we're going up from Tarik Skubal, my next answer is Garrett Cole. I don't think that he and Max Fried should have the same ownership today. I think that Cole is pretty clearly better than Fried. I think that Cole is on par with Skubal. He just doesn't happen to have the same salary benefit. He's $2,600 cheaper. Cole at 12-2 is well outside that realm, but I don't have any real issue on a 7-game slate getting enough salary to get to Cole. So I think Cole is getting slept on the most of anybody here. He's been great this season. He doesn't give up crazy power, no matter what it seems like happens every time that I roster him. And there's plenty of strikeouts in this Blue Jays lineup. I have no problem other than the park giving up power. That's the only thing that really scares me here. Otherwise, you're talking about Biggio, Schneider, Chapman, all striking out a lot in the heart of this order. Is it the best strikeout matchup in the world? No, but I like the run total for the Blue Jays is as low as any other team on today's slate. I think Cole's getting slept on.
And by the way, on the other side, because the comparison point here, if you're going to be contrarian on hand, it's Cole to Max Fried. And Max Fried isn't in the most favorable pitcher's park either. He's on the road. He's in Washington. That's not the best strikeout matchup. And Max Fried also doesn't have the same strikeout ability as somebody like a Garrett Cole. So if you look at our top pitchers tool, for instance, we have Garrett Cole with a 30.6% chance to be the top scoring or to be one of the top 2 scoring pitchers on the slate. Max Fried at 20.8%. We have a really, really big range of outcomes projection gap between these two pitchers.
Yeah.
But it's not only not shown in the ownership, Fried is more popular between the two of them. So I'm on the same page as you. If you're paying up and being contrarian, I think Garrett Cole is the guy to get to. Is the matchup ideal against Toronto, to Josh's point? Absolutely not. But I still think he's worthwhile relative to owner. He's under-owned on a slate that doesn't have that many options.
What do we have the two? Like, I know what I have it at. I have the gap as a 1.5. What do we have the run total projected for the Blue Jays and the Phillies?
For the Blue Jays and the Phillies. So we have, do you mean the Nationals? Who Fried's pitching against?
Oh, yeah. Never mind my question.
Okay. I know what you're talking about, though.
The way the numbers are on my screen, it just looked like those were the two names that I should have said. And my point was about to be really good, but based on those numbers, they are wrong. And the Nats are the team. And based on the numbers that we need, they are very close.
Yeah. So I was going to say that at least per our data and the way that we project out runs in the top pitchers tool, we have the Nationals projected for 3.6 runs and the Blue Jays for 3.5. Very similar between the two. But the point still remains that of the two, Cole has the more strikeout upside. And then you've also still got Fried, lesser strikeout pitcher, more ownership on the road, whereas Garrett Cole's pitching at home, which also benefits him a little bit. It's pretty clearly Cole to me if I'm looking to pay up for somebody who's not Skubal.
Yeah, I have 27% Cole. I had more earlier today, actually. So I have a little bit less than I did before, but I'm not getting to Fried at all. I am getting to Cole quite a bit. And then Skubal to me is just like a guy I definitely want to get to. It gets a little bit more interesting as we start working our way down. That's where I start getting a little bit, maybe not weird, but do you have the, I can get to him just as quick, I guess. Cole's odds of winning the Cy Young, because I think that's relevant for today.
It's like minus 30,000 now. Like it's a done deal.
Oh, is it? Okay. So like, I don't think like, I assume he's going to get like a normal start, whereas the Braves have no, I mean, I guess they want Fried to be stretched out, but like they have no incentive. There's a very big difference between getting Cole out there to win his award and like the Braves making it to the first week of October.
Yeah, Cole is minus 2,200 to win the American League Cy Young, which, by the way, I do think he's a little bit overvalued from that standpoint because, like, I don't even think Cole's been the best pitcher in the American League this year. I think he's most likely to win Cy Young based on what voters are looking for, ERA, sometimes win-loss record. To me, the best pitcher in the American League this year has been Kevin Gausman. It has not been Garrett Cole, but just because of what voters are typically looking at, Garrett Cole has had, relative to his numbers, he's been a little bit worse than Gausman. But when you start to look at like the ERA difference, Gausman's just been a little bit unlucky this year, whereas Cole has been lucky. So you just get a much better ERA on Cole, which the voters are going to care more about. Therefore, Cole more likely to win between the two. I don't think he should be minus 2,200, but I think he probably wins. So I'm not going and taking a chance on anybody else. That aside, I hear what you're saying, Josh. And another thing too is like, what are the Braves playing for? They're playing for a World Series. They're playing for a future. What are the Yankees playing for today? They're probably playing for Garrett Cole to win the Cy Young Award.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, I feel more comfortable about him like pitching through stuff today than I do for Fried. They probably are, in theory, they're projected for the same amount of innings today. Like, I don't think that they're all that different, but I do have Cole on like a completely different level than Fried today. So, especially at that ownership.
By the way, basically every award is well locked up at this point. American League MVP, Shohei Ohtani is minus 200,000. National League MVP, Ronald Acuna is minus 2,100. American League Cy Young, Garrett Cole is minus 2,200. National League Cy Young, Blake Snell is minus 6,000. They don't even have the Rookie of the Year awards up anymore because those have been clinched forever ago. Corbin Carroll in the National League, Gunnar Henderson in the American League. So this is like the most uncompetitive award race season we've ever seen towards the tail end of this part of the season. But I do think it's a good point that you brought up in terms of the Cy Young odds for Cole.
Strider can't get two more starts, can he? They'll probably only start him once.
The problem also with Strider is
he's got 18 wins.
What's that?
He's got 18 wins.
Oh, gotcha. It's his ERA is like a run and a half worse than Snell's, though, which you're just never going to get those old voters to go that way.
If he gets 20 wins as the number one team in the NL,
it won't make a difference. The ERA is too high.
They're tight in enhanced Cy Young, in Tango Tiger Cy Young points, but it's still Snell. But I bet that 20th win could be interesting if he got two more starts.
Yeah, maybe. It's still though. So the ERA for Snell is 2.33 right now, and it's 3.73 for Strider.
What did I want to say? There are no other NL odds. You couldn't bet Strider right now.
No, you can. So here's what it is. You've got Snell is minus 6,000. Justin Steele is 25-1. So going into yesterday, Steele was like 10-1, and then he just got lit on fire, so his odds plummeted. And then you got Strider at 60-1.
Glad I faded Steele yesterday and didn't play the slate.
Goes to show how dumb some of these markets could be sometimes, though, where Snell is minus 6,000, and then you got Strider at 60-1 on the other side. Just shows how, like, juiced they are. Now, with that said, I do find these to be like the softest markets to bet in the long term because there's just stuff that happens that books totally oversee. It's where I've made my most money sports betting, but nothing I'm looking to bet in terms of the markets right now because I think the awards are locked up.
If he can get two more starts, I like the idea of throwing like $20 on Strider on the off chance that he wins them both. Because I think 20 does unlock a different possibility if he gets to 20 wins as the Braves' number one starter. But that's the only path is that. But like they're going to finish with 100 wins if he does this. I think that starts to look and the best record in the NL. I think it starts to look interesting if he gets both starts. I just don't know if they're going to care.
There are going to be some sharper bettors that will have Strider towards the top of their ballot that don't care just about the ERA, but it's still, there's just too many people that give a shit about ERA. I hear what you're saying though. And he's 60-1. If you threw $20 on him, he somehow won, you would win $1,200 on Strider.
Yeah. Look, like, I mean, and that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's all that likely. And you need whatever the odds are of him to win back-to-back starts. Like right away, that's what you're pricing the market at. Plus, like just the chance that doesn't even get it done. Like it's a long shot, but it's the kind of one where it's just like, okay, for $20, like I would love to buy that ticket in Vegas. at the end of it, and or like right now, and like have some way to like sweat that out, because I think it'd be fun if he were pitching well, but I don't think there's anything like really actionable from that.
Let's talk about the other pitchers on the slate. If we go to the cheaper guys, let's talk about the range of 7K, Josh, through 8,600. So we're looking at Johan Oviedo through Jose Barrios, where we have a handful of pitchers that are picking up ownership. Ranger Suarez projected for 28% ownership. Grayson Rodriguez, 13%. Jose Barrios is at 17.7%. I'm wondering if you have Ranger Suarez somehow on the tip of your tongue, because you mentioned the Phillies run total, or maybe it was just a coincidence that Ranger Suarez is projected for ownership and he pitches for the Phillies. But Suarez is the chalk in the mid-range, projected for 28% ownership. Do you think that's fair that the field is getting to him that much?
I think he looks fine. I think it's a little high. I'm getting to more of Rodriguez and Barrios. I think they look better relative to ownership in that range than Suarez does. I think Suarez should be around 20% owned. So like I have no real issue with his ownership, but 13 to Grayson Rodriguez, I like a lot, and 18 to Jose Barrios. Those are the two biggest stands I'm taking as on pitchers over the field. I have 31% of Grayson Rodriguez and 37 of Barrios, only 17 of Suarez. I think all three of those guys, relative to their salary, are basically equals. So I'm kind of just flip-flopping all of their ownership around. I'm getting way more Rodriguez. I'm getting less Suarez. Barrios is just soaking up basically the non-David Peterson lineups that I get to, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, so I would say that I am on what Ben Ross would call monkey tilt this season about Grayson Rodriguez. The reason being is that earlier in the year, when Grayson Rodriguez first got called up by the Orioles, one of the top pitching prospects in baseball is ridiculous stuff. His fastball touches 100 miles per hour. On average, it's 97.5 for the year. So he gets called up, and nobody's rostering him. He's like 2-3% owned on a bunch of slates, and I'm coming in well overweight to the field on Grayson Rodriguez in a bunch of these starts, and he is just getting his ass lit on fire. He gets called back to the minor leagues, gets called up, and all of a sudden he's uber popular as soon as he comes up the second time. And I go, listen, I was playing Grayson Rodriguez at 2-3% ownership and nobody was playing him. Now he comes back, he's super popular. I'm stacking against him. I've already been on the wrong side of this. Now let's start stacking against him. And what happens? He becomes just a lights out good starting pitcher. So that's where I use the Ben Raza phrase monkey tilt. And that's how I feel about Grayson Rodriguez. But to your point, he's finally not projected for ownership anymore. He's been super popular for the majority of the second half of the season. Today, he's $8,100. He's on the road against Cleveland. Cleveland's offense has not been great this year, and especially in the second half of the year after they traded away some pieces. This is not a great offense. So I also like him in the mid-range as my favorite pitcher to get to relative to ownership because he's uber talented. He has the strikeout stuff. He has just the stuff in general, like mentioned, 97.5 mile per hour average on his fastball velocity. The strikeout rate up to 24.8%, reasonable price tag. I'm with you. I like Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mostly like the ownership. It is as bad of a strikeout matchup as you are going to get. This Cleveland team doesn't strike out. I got the projected strikeout rates for the 1, 2, 3 hitters for Cleveland of 10, 12, and 15. That is brutal. 18% K rate for their active roster this season, just in general. That's 29th of 30 teams, just barely ahead of the Washington Nationals. So on paper like that, it's a terrifying spot for Grayson Rodriguez. He's just not going to get the things you want, but park limits runs, park limits power. Lefties touch him up a lot. 212 X ISO to lefties this season. It's going to be a sea of lefties. He's only going to face 2 righties. So it is a little scary in that regard, but there's still enough strikeout stuff. I think he's a different guy than he was when he originally went up. And for 13% ownership, I'm willing to take the chance that like today he just finds a couple extra strikeouts.
The biggest difference between him now versus when he first got called up is he seems more willing to throw strikes. So he sacrificed a little bit of strikeout rate, nothing crazy, because post All-Star break, he still has a 23.5% K rate, but he's nearly halved his walk rate, which all these are indicates like, all right, strikeout rate down slightly, walk rate way down. He's just throwing more strikes now, which is enabled to find more success. First half of the year, Grayson Rodriguez had a 5.91 FIP. Second half of the year, Grayson Rodriguez 2.91 FIP. Massive difference between Grayson Rodriguez when I was playing him and Grayson Rodriguez when I was fading him. But I'm going to be back on Grayson Rodriguez for today. I think he's a good guy to go to in that mid-range. Now, if we go to punt plays, Josh, somebody we're going to have to talk about that you just alluded to is David Peterson, because he is projected for 33.9% ownership He is by far the most popular punt play on the slate. He's the second most popular pitcher overall behind Tarik Skubal. You had mentioned that David Peterson was somebody who I think you'd said you're getting to him in a lot of your non-David Peterson lineups, which seems to imply you're getting to a lot of David Peterson. Is that the case?
It is not. I have 18% David Peterson. I don't understand his ownership at all today. At all. It makes very little. Like, I get that he's 5,500, but 34% ownership just seems crazy for what this matchup actually is. We're talking about a park that is at best neutral, plays up righty power, definitely plays up lefty power. Peterson this year, 175 xISO to righties, 176 to right. Like it's 175 basically to both hands. That's not ideal in this park. The Phillies have like a legitimate run total at home. They're sizable favorites in this one with Suarez on the opposite side. The strikeout stuff has been fine for Peterson. 29% K rate to lefties, 24 to righties. There's some strikeout stuff there, but I don't really know what I'm looking at. Why does he look so different than like why is he twice as owned as Luis Medina? It's the Tigers on the opposite side. Like, I don't totally understand that one. I get the price tag, but I don't know what that's unlock. Is that just unlocking Braves bats and Dodgers bats for you? I guess Cubs bats at the top. I don't like paying all the way down. I think he's too owned. I have way more interest in trying to go to the Phillies bats against his ownership than I want to get to 34% of David Peterson. He's a completely reasonable point per dollar play. Maybe you go that way in cash, although it seems like you'll be able to pay up a little bit further. He's fine in that regard, but I think he's a very uninteresting tournament play.
So the lineups I have with Peterson are Brave stacks. To your point, it's like, what do you do if you want to save the money? You go to the Braves. And I do view the Braves as being under-owned on the slate as a whole. They're only projected for 12.2% ownership as a team. We have them with the highest top stack odds. So it's kind of weird, right? Because like I look at Peterson as being a little bit over-owned, but I look at the Braves as being under-owned, but you kind of need him to some extent to unlock the Braves. So yeah. I view David Peterson this way. I like playing him in tournaments. I also like stacking against him. He's cheap and has a lot of strikeout upside. He's also been really good in the past. He's had incredibly terrible luck this year. He's a 373 BABIP allowed against him. Like, that's something that's not really sustainable. His numbers last year, he had a 3.83 ERA, a 3.94 expected ERA last year, and a 27.8% K rate. His numbers are fairly similar this year to last year. It's just the BABIP is a lot higher. And then also the home run to fly ball rate also is like crazy high at 22.1%. So a guy that I think is run into a lot of bad luck, and he's super cheap. Like, he's very comparable to Michael King from yesterday, where it's like, here's this pitcher who may be good, maybe not, in a tough matchup. The field is playing him. It's either going to go really well or really poorly. Peterson's either going to have like -8 fantasy points, and Phillies are going to be the highest scoring team on the slate, or he's going to generate a swing and misses, and he's going to be a guy at 5,500 that scores like 25 fantasy points. I think there's a really wide range of outcomes here. I like both ends of it.
I like both ends of it too. Yeah, I'm just like, he's projected for 15 outs. Like, his outline for today is 15.5, -132 to the under. This isn't a guy that, like, he has to get those strikeouts. Has to. No choice. Like, he's going to get them from Kyle Schwarber, but is he going to get it from Turner or Alec Boehm? Or like, there's not massive strikeouts in the rest of that lineup other than Schwarber. So I just think he's a little overrepresented for today. If he were somewhere around 20% owned, I think that would make some sense. I think he's just getting jammed in a little bit too much for reasons I don't. If the slate were a little bit smaller, I would get it. But today, he seems like the perfect get half guy and then deal with it somewhere else.
And this is also now kind of getting to, like, yesterday, I kind of had like an option A, option B for how I wanted to play single entry yesterday. Same for me today. I'm stuck in between two teams. I think I know what your answer is going to be, and it's currently the same answer as mine. My two top lineups I'm considering for single entry. One is a Braves stack. One is a Phillies stack. Which way do you lean between those two?
Probably a Phillies stack. It's just easier. You get on the opposite side of that Peterson ownership. They're not very owned, but their top stack odds aren't all that bad for the slate. They're just pretty expensive at the top. So I would lean to the Phillies side of that one.
All right, we're on the same page. That's what I'm going to be doing here is the Phillies. And a lot of it too is because I do expect that, particularly in single entry, Peterson's probably going to be even more popular. He's expected to be the second most popular pitcher on the slate. Like, I really don't think there's going to be pitchers in single entry that are getting any kind of considerable ownership outside of Skubal, Suarez, and Peterson.
Yeah.
And I always love these kind of situations because if you stack against one of those pitchers, it's very easy to plug in the other two and
Yeah.
really have a lineup that makes a lot of sense for the format of that tournament. So that's the way I'm looking to go. Is I'm going to be going Skubal, Suarez as my pitchers, and then stack up the Phillies with them. Anything else you want to talk about as far as pitchers go, Josh?
No, I don't really have much of anybody else. We've touched on everybody here. I mentioned my love for Barrios and Rodriguez. I have 9% Medina. He's 15% owned. I don't have anybody else with like big stands or anything at the bottom. Seymour Cake wanted to know if Hendricks was a good play for cash games. I answered that. Absolutely not. He's the exact opposite of that. You shouldn't, if you play like no, he should be unowned in cash. But like he won't be, but
for sure,
like he'll be 1 or 2% or whatever. But like he should be, it should be impossible to click his name over Suarez.
If you are playing cash games today, you are playing 1 or 2 of the 3 of Skubal, Suarez, and Peterson just from an ownership standpoint. Yep. And I know that you might say like, hey, Peterson feels unsafe because he kind of is, but some of those concerns go out the window when somebody's going to be like 50% owned in cash games.
Yeah, he'll be more owned in cash games than he is in these tournaments. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's the way it always goes. So with that in mind, don't play. You're playing Skubal in cash, and then whatever you fit behind that between Suarez or Peterson is how you're filling out your second cash game pitching option.
Yep.
We have a question from Kapanikella in our Discord channel. If anybody has questions for us in Discord, at me, we could answer those over the course of the show here. And then Jordan, we're going to look at the lineup generator. We'll do it for football as well, because we've got the red zone promo right now. But Kapanikella says, we're playing Baltimore in single entry on DK. Then he wants to know, do I have somebody else in mind? Yeah, so I was considering 2 teams. Baltimore was not one of them for single entry, one of them being the Braves, one of them being the Phillies. For different reasons, the Braves in general, I just think are being under-owned on this slate, and the Phillies, while also under-owned, are also giving you a big leverage point against David Peterson. But to Kapanikella's question, Orioles, is that a team you're getting to in any kind of considerable way, Josh?
I have 4 stacks. They are way more owned than what I've got going on here today. So I am pretty massively under the field on Baltimore.
So my answer to your question, Kapanikella, which you're not going to like, and this could very easily blow up in my face because of the ownership. My least favorite stack in single entry today is the Baltimore Orioles, because they are incredibly popular, and I don't think it's warranted on this slate. It's not to say that they're in like a terrible spot or anything against whoever the hell Hunter Gaddis is, but they don't warrant 15.4% ownership when they have top stack odds of 9.2%. So this is a massive difference. Like, this is one of the most negatively leveraged teams we've seen in quite some time in our top stacks tool. The Orioles are wildly overowned on this slate, where they have about half the odds of the Braves to be the top scoring team on the slate, but they have like 20% more ownership.
Yeah. I only have 5% total. I have them as the clear, gigantic, like crazy negative leverage team that I'm getting away from. To me, they're the worst team you could get to in single entry, as you mentioned. So we are in lockstep there.
And the other thing too about this slate is that the Orioles are going to be crazy owned. There's only going to be like 4 teams that the field is playing in single entry. The Orioles, the Braves, the Tigers, and the Pirates. Those are the 4 teams that people are playing in single entry today. And of those teams, I think the Braves make the most sense. It's just so much ownership going on the Orioles. It's so easy to differentiate by playing pretty much anybody else based on what our ownership projections are. So the Orioles, like, I'm not going to say it's impossible for them to go off. That's not the case. It's just they're so much more owned than the likelihood of them going off.
Completely agree.
So let's go ahead and look at the lineup generator. And first, Jordan, let's show them the NFL lineup generator, just because we've got this promo code going on right now, Red Zone. If you guys sign up for the first time for our NFL lineup generator using the promo code Red Zone, less than $10, you're getting access to our NFL tool. And it includes so much, because it's not just for main slates, it's also for all the showdown contests. And you've got cool things you can do in here, like pick a game script. So go to the showdown for tonight, Jordan, and just go all lineups, show people that you could pick a game script for tonight's game, right? Let's say that you are of the opinion that the Giants are going to get blown out by the 49ers, something a lot of people are going to think for tonight. You could go right ahead in here and you could go up on the 49ers, down on the Giants, and it's going to give you a bunch of like 5-1 stacks. on the 49ers. I was using our lineup generator tool, our Sims tool earlier in the day. And I was getting to a lot of 49ers exposure, less so on the Giants side. So if you guys have a particular game script you want to play for tonight, or do you want to be really contrary? Do you want to make lineups thinking the Giants blow out the 49ers? Click on that really quick, Jordan. Go up on the Giants, down on the 49ers.
I had a lot of like powerful Giants, 4-2s, 5-1 Giants with a lot of Daniel Jones earlier today. And no part of that seems like it's going to be fun by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's funny. The first lineup we got to was still only one Giants player here. Because it's you have to like aggressively boost up the Giants in order to get to them. The 49ers side really does project better, especially because Brandon Ayuk is now out for the 49ers, which opens up more value on the 49ers side, which is something that makes this a little bit more annoying in terms of trying to make Giant stacks. But anyway, if you guys want to check out the NFL lineup generator and you're looking at the easiest way to build NFL lineups tonight, sign up, use that link below, promo code REDZONE. It's already loaded in, less than $10, and you get access to all of this. Let's go and build lineups for baseball now, Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, because I know that's what people are here for, but still want to show off some of the NFL tools that we have in here. But for the MLB lineup generator, we'll start with DraftKings, and let's try to make contrarian lineups for baseball as it will allow us. There is nothing like crazy chalky outside of the ownership going to the Orioles. So I'm interested to see what our stack odds end up looking like here, or stack exposures, I should say. Looks like we're getting to just about blind eye. Look at a good amount of Pirates and Tigers. And Tigers, most stacked team, 45% of our lineups are Tigers stacks of some sort, 17% of the Pirates. Josh, we've got the Tigers going up against Luis Medina. The Tigers have the top overall value odds of the entire slate. So if you want to build lineups where you're going to Garrett Cole, going to Tarik Skubal, also a little bit of correlation between the Tigers offense and Tarik Skubal. Tigers would seem like a team to stack. Are you getting to the Tigers today very much?
No, half the field. This is another one that I think is just absolutely insane today. Not in this park with this, like this Tigers lineup stinks. The park is awful for this. Luis Medina isn't the biggest gas can in the world, but he's like a decent sized gas can. If Zach McKinstry is going to be 19% owned and Matt Vierling's going to be 15% owned, there's just better teams to get to. There's other ways that you can save some salary if you have to. I find the Tigers to be like Orioles light in that neither one of them should be getting the ownership that they are. So I am well light of the Tigers.
I don't love the Tigers as a 5-man stack. I love a lot of their pieces as one-offs due to the price points.
Sure.
Very, very cheap hitters. Good matchup against Medina, who is a talented pitcher, but has really just been left out to the Wolves by the A's this year, where they like, hey, we have to fill lineup spots. Medina's one of our top prospects. There are days where Medina is getting his ass kicked, and they're like, hey, man, you're going to go through it today. Like, and you are just going to eat innings. You're going to throw pitches. We're going to watch. You're going to develop in real time while screwing up all of your numbers when you have to go to arbitration at some point in a few years. Because there are some of these starts where it's like, how is Medina still out here in the 5th inning? He's like at 100 pitches. He's given up like 8 runs, walked a bunch of guys. On the flip side, too, though, you could make a case that benefits his upside to some respect because they just let him out there to throw a bunch of pitches sometimes. But I do think the Tigers' one-offs make a lot of sense today.
He threw 96 pitches in his last start and didn't finish 4 innings. I mean, that's just like every dude's getting a full count. It's like the only way to do that.
The worst one I've seen of that this year, I can't remember who it was. There's a Red Sox reliever. And the Red Sox were in a close game against the Astros. This reliever comes in like the 7th inning and just gets lit up. They left a reliever in to throw over 100 pitches. He gave up like 12 runs in 2 1/3 innings and threw over 100 pitches in less than 3 innings.
Yeah, so you got to love that. I mean, like, teams need to do that kind of stuff more. Like, we know what win probability is. You can punt a game way earlier than they think that you can. And you're probably in a better spot to go to a position player pitching in like the 3rd inning if you're already dead to rights. And no one is ever doing that. But there's no reason you should ever do anything other than that.
The rules don't let you anymore.
Well, back in the day, at least. Yeah.
Because they've got these dumb rules on when you can and can't use
it's so stupid
position player. So yeah, you get some of these games where it's like, oh, well, it's the 6th inning and we can't use a position player pitcher. Or it's like, oh, well, we're getting our asses kicked, but it's the 9th inning and it's only like a 7-run game, so we can't use the game's over. But yeah, because of these rules, you end up getting some of these spots where teams are like, hey man, you're just going to eat it as a reliever, and your numbers are fucked forever. You're never going to get paid in free agency because nobody has enough nuance to figure out why it is your ERA is 7 for the year. But that's what ends up happening to some of these guys.
You should be allowed to like forfeit during a game. There should be like a mercy rule in pro sports. Like, just get the hell out of there. Who cares?
DFS players. And I'll tell you, because they have that for tennis, and it's a fucking disaster. Do you play DFS tennis ever?
Not really.
They have walkovers. It fucks up so many slates because if people are winning by too much and their opponent quits, it just screws their score up.
Yeah, well, like then just implement it better.
It's the worst because you'll have somebody in tennis like, oh look, this lady's only like 12% owned and I have 30% of her. She just bageled the other girl 6-0 in the first set. She's about to break the slate. And then the other girl just retire because she realized she has no chance of winning. And then it's just like, oh great, now this girl is going to be optimal. Now is just as like a mediocre score because the other girl didn't finish the match. So DFS players care.
I was just thinking back. We were playing a team in All Stars when I was a kid, and we were like beating the shit out of them. But no matter what, you had to get to like whatever the third inning or the fourth inning, no matter how bad it was getting. And we were like trying to bunt to get out and like still couldn't even do it. And they were just throwing it all over the place. Craziness. That was fun though. It's weird. Like when you're in it, you're just like, nah, let's keep playing this game on rookie. Let's beat the shit out of them. Like we just turned this game on and we didn't change the sliders. It's so much fun.
When you play video games, is your preference to make it hard difficulty, medium, or easy?
Hard. The first thing that I've ever done for every video game, if we're talking like sports games, it's immediately change it to the hardest difficulty in the game.
Depends on the game for me. Like, because especially now, like I find that as I get older, video games, it's not that they become harder, but like my reaction time is a little bit different.
That's probably the weed.
I'm sure it doesn't help because I'm not sober when I play them at night. But dude, I'm telling you, like because like I've been trying to learn combos and stuff in the new Mortal Kombat game, and it feels impossible to me at times.
Fatality.
It is so many buttons to press.
Yeah, it's a lot different than right A, whatever the shit it would have been back in the day to like
not anymore.
Shoot scorpions,
also, like,
scorpion thing.
You've got cameo characters, so you got like assist characters that you have as like a tag team who you could call in as parts of your combo. Oh. So you just
so you do like wrestling.
I mean, I like Mortal Kombat. Is Mortal Kombat the same as wrestling? Nobody gets decapitated in wrestling.
Depends. Maybe some guys come close.
All right. Maybe
but not in the match. They usually like fall from the rafters or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've never seen somebody get decapitated in a wrestling match. If it happens, then tag me in and I'll start watching those.
Brandon Ayuk officially out.
There we go.
Is like, oh man, I used to love the old school Mortal Kombat games, but now I feel like it's just got to be too hard. Like I feel like you're gonna leave a fight in Mortal Kombat like you were in it.
Probably the funniest thing that they do in the game now is if you're playing online and if somebody quits, it's called a quitality, and instead of the person just disconnecting, their character will actually commit suicide and kill themselves. Huh. And it's like how there's like brutalities and fatalities and quitalities now if somebody DCs during the game.
Okay. It just seems so hard now.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on. I'm trying to figure it out though. If we look at the rest of our player exposures here, we're getting to a bunch of the Tigers here. We're getting to Zach McKinstry, Jake Rogers. Rogers was expected to be popular at the catcher spot yesterday. He wasn't in the lineup. Will Smith was expected to be popular in the catcher spot yesterday. He wasn't in the lineup. And now we've got Jake Rogers back in the mix, Akil Baddoo, Matt Vierling, and then some of the Cubs hitters here. As far as pitcher exposures, we're getting to Skubal the most, if I remember correctly, followed by Garrett. Oh, no, Peterson the most. My bad. Peterson, then Cole. We're getting well overweight to the field on Garrett Cole. I assume you like to see that, Josh.
I love it. So this is one of those days where like, I'm going to play NFL tonight. I'm going to dodge baseball, and Garrett Cole's going to go out there and strike out 15 dudes. I'm going to have none of it.
Are you playing because you haven't played much Showdown this year, have you?
I've only played one. I played Monday night. So yeah, this will be round 2.
All right.
Only way I can be a millionaire is by doing that.
All right. Well, I have a bunch of tickets to FanDuel, so I'm going to be playing there. I'm playing on DraftKings as well, but FanDuel, I had a bunch of tickets to their to the $9 tonight, which is the big tournament over there that they have. Only 200,000 in first place, so I can't be a millionaire on FanDuel. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be upset if I won the 200K over on FanDuel. I could deal with it if that ends up being the case.
The moment we leave this show, I'm going to get some sushi, but I'm taking the laptop with me. And then at 8 o'clock, I'll hit go and generate the lineups while I'm knocking back a cocktail and some tuna rolls or something and hope for the best.
It'll be potato latkes and building lineups for me after this.
That sounds awful in comparison.
Oh my God. No, not for me. I love potato latkes. Love potato latkes.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
All right. Then you have to change your last name. Not allowed to be called Engleman anymore. Not allowed. You need a less Jewish sounding last name if you don't like potato latkes.
It is 0% Jewish.
Engleman sounds Jewish, though.
I mean, I think that's just because you know that I'm smart and good with numbers and I wanted to be a weatherman.
That's a pretty Jewish sounding last name to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Jordan Klein, break the tie. If you knew nothing and just heard Engleman as the last name, would you assume Jewish? There we go. 2-1. You're outvoted, Josh. And that's
I do have a facial feature that really runs up against it. That's the problematic piece for me is the nose. But no, I mean, I've got my ancestry in front of me here. It's probably not likely that there's a lot of that in me. A lot of Poland, a lot of Ukraine.
Your last name's on the screen now.
It's true. I mean, honestly, the big section, the most likely match for me is Germany. So different vibe. I think I would have been on the other side.
Could be. Yeah.
Not by choice or anything, but it seems to me that the most likely scenario would have been, I think I just got a bug, would have been Germany. Germany or the Ukraine. So it sounds like at some point in time I would have been in it.
I have this World War II. I don't know if you call it memorabilia because that's not what it is. But my grandfather, so my grandfather fought in the war, and he killed a Nazi and took his helmet and brought it home with him. And we have it. It's like a family type thing. What if that's the helmet of somebody you're related to?
There's a giant E etched in the inside of it or something like that.
Yeah, got his World War II pistol, the Nazi helmet. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff.
That's actually really awesome to have. I don't know if memorabilia is the right word, but that's cool shit.
Yeah, it's because I don't know if memorabilia is the right word either. Kind of like how Darren Ravel very famously on Twitter last year said that he has the world's largest Martin Luther King memorabilia collection, which I don't really think is the proper terminology. But either way, that's you know what I'll do after this? Actually, I'm going to go downstairs into my basement and I'll look for it and I'll send you a picture of it afterwards.
All right. I'll go look through my pictures and send you my great-great-grandfather wearing that.
Wearing the helmet. Yeah. Wearing the helmet before my grandfather shot it off his head.
Yes. Josh does have the personality of a middle-aged Bronx, whatever. I immediately lost it when I was looking at it, but it sounds about right.
Middle-aged Jewish lady from the Bronx.
I get it. Oh, what do we got here? Yeti bringing in the... Okay, so I'm the angel man? You damn right I am.
All right, well, there's never been a less accurate representation of somebody than their name, meaning angel man.
Angel man, right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move that forward. We're going to establish that. I'm going to constantly do the angels in the outfield thing. We're about to build a gimmick here, but angel man right here. Josh Angelman.
All right, Josh Angelman. Let's for myself and Angelman, Jordan, let's check out some FanDuel lineups. Let's see what's happening over there. And then we are going to check out some of our favorite stacks of the day, do a home run pick. We'll get out of here for the night. Let's check out FanDuel lineups, see what looks different across FanDuel compared to DraftKings. One thing that's obviously going to be different is some of the pitcher exposures here. I'm kind of interested to see what ends up popping up for us most predominantly on FanDuel, where we only are playing one pitcher. And it is Garrett Cole that we're getting to as a contrarian pitching option. Cole only projected for 8% ownership on FanDuel. I love this. Only 11,500, a little bit cheaper on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. getting to him in about half of our lineups here. I love Garrett Cole on FanDuel, only 8% ownership, and we have him as the best projected pitcher of the night.
I think we've talked a lot about Cole so far today, but I think he might actually be more interesting on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. I'm very happy to get there.
I mean, the other thing too is like Fried is 10,006. The price gap between him and Fried is less pronounced on FanDuel. Fried is 10,6. Cole's 11,5. They have the same ownership. Skubal is 10,300, so also more expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. And he's still projected for 27% ownership. So I love that our projections and our lineup generators getting us to Garrett Cole here. As far as stack exposures, Jordan, looks like it's a lot of Cubs. Yeah, predominantly Cubs, followed by the Tigers, some Dodgers there. Yankees, Braves, Phillies. Cool that we're getting to the Phillies as a contrarian team on FanDuel because Peterson is still picking up ownership on FanDuel there. But Josh, now we're getting closer to lock, about 10 minutes to go here. Who is your most exposed team overall? Which stack do you have the most exposure to?
The team that I have the most of, as of right now, is the San Francisco Giants.
Terrifying.
Yeah. I don't love it. Yep. Yeah. I don't love any bit of it. It's really not appealing. It's the park. They're not getting a lot of love. You're getting a, bullpen-ish game, but it's not like Sheehan or Yarborough are any good on their own. But this park, 125 park factor to lefties or to righties, 121 to lefties. There's just a lot of power potential here. And that's sort of what I'm banking on. They're not getting a lot of respect from a run total, but I think when it goes well, because of their pricing, they're a little bit more interesting. So right now, I think the Giants are a little sneaky for me.
And we got a question that I like from Einsteinium in the Discord channel. He wants to know, are the Cubs a stack that we're getting to? So we just ran lineups through the lineup generator, got to a bunch of Cubs there. Yeah, there are 3 teams that I really think stick out in our top stacks pool for different reasons. The Braves, overall top stack, highest top stack odds, 18%, 12% aggregate ownership. The Braves make sense as a pay-up option. Then you've got the Cubs against Johan Oviedo. Oviedo's kind of mid as a pitcher. Like he's below average pitcher. Nothing really to talk all much about. The Cubs offense is overall for the year been a very fantasy friendly offense. So a lot of home runs and stolen bases to be had. And they're only projected for 6.7% ownership as a team. So I think the Braves are underowned. I think the Cubs are underowned, but in different tiers because the Cubs aren't as expensive as the Braves. And then I like the Phillies. The reason I like the Phillies is because they have a matchup against a very volatile pitcher in David Peterson, who when he's bad has been extremely bad this year. And he's also very popular today because of his price point. So those are my 3 favorite stacks on the slate. Braves, Cubs, Phillies. The question Einstein had for us is whether we like the Cubs as a stack. For me, it is yes. How about for yourself?
Not really, but I don't hate them. I think they're just sort of like properly owned in the mid tier. So I don't really have much to say. I have 9 of their stacks. I'm basically dead equal to overall exposure. So I don't really have too much to add for the Cubs. They're not one of the 4 teams that I'm taking a pseudo stand on.
So who are the 4 teams that you're taking a pseudo stand on then? One of them is the Giants, clearly, against Ryan Yarborough. Who,
yes.
The Giants are cheap. They have good top value odds for us. They enable you to get to more of Garrett Cole, who we like as a contrarian option. And I mean, the thing that just sucks about the Giants, I never really know what to do with them because it's so hard to figure out a way to work around the pinch hitting. Because how many times it's happened to all of us? You have a great Giant stack, get into the 4th inning, the starting pitcher comes out, and here comes half of the Giants lineup leaves for the platoon side of the game. So it's always a pain in the ass. I never quite know how to manage that, but I understand why, at least on paper, they look good for this slate. But outside of the Giants, I'm going to guess you like the Phillies.
I do in my mind. I don't have them.
Okay. So one of them are the Braves one of the teams you like then?
They are not. I'm neutral to the Braves, but they are not one of the 4 most exposed stacks that I have.
I'm going to make a fool of myself. I keep guessing then.
One of them shouldn't be all that surprising.
The Dodgers?
Nope. Literally 0 stacks.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start naming all the teams on the slate. I mean, does being underweight to the Orioles count as a stand?
I was talking about for teams that I'm getting to. So at the very least, I have 4 teams that I have 20 or more stacks of.
Okay. Well, I know one of them is the Giants.
Correct.
Is one of them the Mets against Ranger Suarez?
It is.
Okay. No skill involved in that. I just got lucky because I've guessed almost every other team so far.
You're missing a team that's getting ownership that I also find to be good today.
The Pirates?
Yeah.
Okay. I can get behind that.
I'd rather have them yesterday.
Yeah. I've gotten 3 out of 4 so far.
You're not getting this one.
I bet I am. The Nationals.
Nope.
Fuck.
Yeah, you're in the right ballpark, though.
Oh, well, I mean,
I don't mean that literally.
Right.
I don't mean it literally, not the right ballpark literally, but figuratively. Same kind of team.
Then Oakland?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think
Which, like, I clearly don't like, for any reason other than game theory changes on the opposite side of a highly owned pitcher. Like, it's not as if I think the A's are good. They look like shit. But if Tarik Skubal's in half of the lineups and he happens to give up 2 or 3 home runs early to the A's, that's probably a good thing. So I have them. It's not a massive stand, but if they're 2% owned, I have 9. So it's pretty big.
I'd say probably the biggest change that I've had in like my lineup portfolios in this year compared to previous years, due to simulations being a part of my process and being available on the site, is the amount of just garbage stacks I get to against popular pitchers that are a little bit overowned. It happens. That is game theory optimal way more than I'd realized in the past. So pretty frequently, I don't know about when you would build your lineups previously, Josh, but a lot of times, like, and maybe Skubal isn't the best example because he's not like a Jacob deGrom level type pitcher. But in the past, I was very regularly not getting to very much exposure to these kind of stacks against really good pitchers. Now it ends up happening all the time for me. And that's probably even been my most profitable slates of the year, is when one of these good chalk pitchers fails and I have like 7-8% stack exposure to the offense against them.
Yeah. I used to get it a lot, but I would get really extreme stands to those teams where it'd be like a 1% guy and I'd have 30% of the entire team. Now it's like, oh, these guys are 1 to 2 and I have, 10 to 12. It doesn't go crazy and like totally ruin up my day. And like today is going to be that day, 46% owned Skubal. I only have 2 guys from the A's more than 10%. But I do have 21 stacks. I'm getting to as many combinations of those A's guys that I can get to. Because on the off chance that today is the day, like, I'm going to cut the line.
We've got one question in here from Clyde. And so we'll answer this question, then we'll do some home run picks. And then time for Josh to have some sushi, a cocktail, and build NFL lineups. Clyde wants to know, for a FanDuel GPP, how do you feel about the Yankees paired with Cole? I'm not really getting to very much of the Yankee stacks in general today. Is that a team that you like at all?
No, I'm way more on the Barrios side, but that might just be like a salary ownership thing on DraftKings. I don't mind like targeting against him. There's certainly enough power at the top of that Yankees order. And they've got, well, this was a FanDuel question, so I don't really know their like positional structure and stuff, but no problem at all. Actually, I guess I could look at my Sims tool. No, I didn't have the Yankees grading out all that well on the FanDuel end. So is there anything wrong with it? No, not at all. The park plays up power in a really nice way. And if the Yankees bats do well, that's certainly better for Cole, especially on a site where the win is more important. So I don't mind pairing them together. I just don't find the Yankees to be that interesting.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yankees, not really a team that I am getting to for tonight. And football show, going to be starting in a little bit, guys. So stick around on the channel. Check that out after us. But Josh, before we get out of here, Dong picks. Who are you picking a homer tonight?
I meant to make that table today. I just keep forgetting to do it. And by the time I remember to do it, the season's going to be over. So it's probably not going to matter all that much. But let me go ahead and filter down my home run column and find out who we should be talking about. I've got
my pick right here. I know who I'm going with. Trey Turner. Trey Turner, who kind of ironically, he was so bad at the start of the year that the Phillies fan base decided, you know what we're doing? Every time Trey Turner comes to bat, we're giving him a standing ovation. Look at you, Mr. Miyagi. I saw that.
I got him too, and he crawled off my hand and flew away. Fucking, I'm so pissed at myself.
Man, he's tough. Josh almost killed a bug in his bare hand.
I did. I felt like I heard him scream. I just had to let it go.
Jordan's eyes are popping out of his head like he's Tim Duncan, just got a foul called on him. So Trey Turner is my home run pick. So what I was going to say is Trey Turner was terrible in the first half of the year. Still obviously a very talented player. And then the Phillies fan base decided, Ironically, every time Trey Turner comes to the base, we're giving this to the plate. We're giving this guy a standing ovation. And for whatever reason, his regression started as soon as they started doing that. So Trey Turner has gone from being one of the worst shortstops in baseball in the first half of the season to one of the best in the second half of the season, to the point where he has a 4-win year going, is a 108 WRC plus, and it is entirely predicated on what he's done over the last couple of months. He's got a matchup against a pitcher in David Peterson, who's going to be really popular today. Trey Turner, mentioned second half of the year, he has been far better than he was in the first half of the year. We've got Trey Turner, a 144 WRC plus since the All-Star break, Josh, and I'm going to pick him to homer today against a very chalky David Peterson.
Okay. I am trying to get to my stuff, but for some reason, filtering it has become a real chore. But I got my list down here. Give me Jack Sawinski.
All right. Jack Sawinski is Josh's pick. By the way, the Giants lineup just came out, and they are playing a very left-hand heavy lineup, which I think is good from a standpoint of if there's a lefty starter and they're going with a lot of left hitters, you don't have to worry as much about the pinch hit because they've got Peterson, they've got Conforto, they've got Yastrzemski, all in that starting lineup tonight, Josh.
Like it. I like it. Go Giants.
Thank you.
Go Giants in both ends too, by the way.
Oh, that's so. Yeah, you're rooting for the Giants and the Giants today.
As it seems, yes.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and stick around. NFL Live Before Lock is next.